Pinterest has just released their 2026 trend report. But are these trends really going to last? If you're new here, my name is Hallie, and this is my channel where I talk about fashion, lifestyle, and a little bit of travel sprinkled in. If that's the kind of content you like, please consider liking this video and subscribing. There are 26 trend predictions, but I'm going to be focusing on the 9 fashion ones. So the first trend we have is cool blue. According to Pinterest, millennials and Gen Zs will be focused on this color, whether it's glacier aesthetics, crystal blues, ice wine, sparkling drinks, think Frozen. So this is the kind of aesthetic that I think we're already kind of seeing a shift. I mean, last year it was more of like the burgundies and the reds, and then now I think it just naturally makes sense that blue would be next. I think I'm a fan. I have quite a few things in this color already, but it's not something that I think for me has gone away. But also I think like people need to dress for their complexion and what works for their skin tone. So if cool blue is not one for you, then maybe find a different shade of blue to still fit within the trend, but not having to be exactly on theme, if that makes sense. I think like wear a color that's more suited, but within the same idea. So yeah, that would be my thought on cool blue. Next, we have brooches. So this is a trend that I think has been around for a few years now. I'd say maybe 2 years. It's something that we primarily saw on the red carpet, and it was generally men that were wearing a lot of brooches. Obviously, there's the odd woman that still wore her brooch, but I think the difference here is that they're being layered and stacked, and there's it's almost like maximalism at its finest. And so according to Pinterest, it will mainly be boomers and millennial men that adopt this trend, and this is definitely one that was a top-down trend, meaning it started from celebrities on red carpets, which is primarily where we're seeing it, and then it's gradually come down to more consumers. But obviously, like there's again like subversions of this, and people have always worn brooches, but I think it's something we've definitely seen come back up as a popular statement. I would say a few years ago it was more the focus was more on rings with men, like a lot of stacking of rings, but now like you're seeing lapels with a whole bunch of like brooches and pins or different ways of like connecting two buttonholes together. Like we're seeing a lot of that now, and I personally like this style. I think women can easily adopt it too. It's one of those like, it's not just gender specific, it's anyone could wear this style. So I'm definitely liking what we're seeing here. Third on the list, we have extra-terrestrial fashion. Now this one's one that, I feel like we keep revisiting this trend. In the 60s, it was mod. That was very much like outer space. You had like so many movies just about futurism. And then now it's like you're seeing it again with people really tapping into that Y2K xenon aesthetic. And so this is a trend that Pinterest is seeing on the rise. Now, I haven't seen it popular outside of like creative rooms, really, like people using it in like music videos or like more creative things. I haven't seen it outside of that. Like I haven't really gone out in the street and seen people dressed in like space wear, but maybe that's something that will happen soon. Think silvers, metallics. According to Pinterest, there's also like moon dust is being searched for, and alien core aesthetic is up by 80%. So I think these are the things we might see, but I don't know if that's really a trend that's going to be like dominant in 2026. I think there's some other ones on this list that are very much relevant. On that note, the next trend is Glamoratti. So this outfit's kind of a nod to Doja Cat's SNL outfit, where she was very much dressed up in the Glamoratti aesthetic. So for those who don't really know what this is, it's like 80s glam. So once again, we're going back into those vintage aesthetics. I don't even want to say vintage. Like we're going back to aesthetics that we're tapping into the past. And again, we see this time and time again. So it's nothing really new, but this year we're really seeing like a lot of red carpets have had broad shoulders. They've had like tailored suits. Things that were very popular in the 80s are supposedly coming back now. So for Doja Cat's look, and I'll have the image here, she was wearing a gray sweater, and then she had on this bejeweled choker collar necklace. And then she also had the drop down earrings, and her glam was all 90s, 80s, like early 90s, late 80s, like down to the brows, the pale makeup, like the foundation, the powder, sorry. And like that was the Glamoratti aesthetic right there. Also, we saw Tom Brown's Fall Winter 2025 show. A lot of his pieces had those silhouettes, so we're kind of seeing that come back. I know we've been doing this oversized look for a while, but I think the difference here is the exaggeration of silhouettes and not so much just it being oversized. It's like sharp cuts, tapered waist, flared pants, like that's kind of what we're seeing here. Oh, and then obviously like the chunky, bold jewelry. So that's another thing too. And this is a trend that, according to Pinterest, will be dominating Gen Zs and millennials. So I guess it's more of a trendier one that we're definitely seeing and hasn't really gone away. Next, we have poet core, which I also very much enjoy. I think this is a trend that Gen Zs and millennial will adopt seamlessly. It's going back to like the roots of turtlenecks and blazers and maybe even a beret, and we're seeing that come again. I think Pinterest has noticed that trend, and I definitely say it's one that's here. There's a lot of people who are dressing almost like an exaggerated poet, where it's not so obvious what they're going for, but like it's very aesthetically pleasing. According to Pinterest, the poet aesthetic is up by 175%. So if that tells you anything, I think that's a trend that's here. And I don't even know the poet aesthetic was a thing. I thought people were just poets, and then that was their aesthetic. Like I didn't think you had to say you were a poet aesthetic, because then if you're not really a poet, it's not your aesthetic, you know what I mean? So like I don't really understand how that's a trend or like an aesthetic. I think it's just, if you are a poet, you go to poetry slams, you go to bars or cafes, or people are performing open mics, and you just are a poet, and that's the aesthetic. Like I didn't think there'd have to be a poet aesthetic, but I guess like people are inspired by Love Jones and movies like that. So yeah. And we also have laced up. Laced up, according to Pinterest, is a trend that incorporates bomber jackets with a lace dress, and it's kind of like that softness with more of a rough side. And so we're definitely seeing that. Again, another trend that I've been seeing consistently over the last few years. I think last year on Pinterest Predicts, they had Rococo aesthetic, which incorporates lace inherently. So I'm not surprised to see that lace aesthetic is there. People are definitely leaning more into wearing like see-through sheer clothing, and not in the way that it's like mesh, but more so in like intricate designs, whether it's like loose knitwear or crochet art. So we're definitely seeing more of that. Again, another one, I like this trend. I think this is a trend that I have one lace dress, which every time I wear it, people have said, well, actually, okay, I shouldn't say people, one person has said, and he was a stranger, so that's why I count him more as in people rather than one person. He said that it was giving Black Wednesday Addams vibes. So yeah, I think like it's definitely witchy. It's definitely like black lace, yeah, sure. I guess Halloween witchy, yeah, black, like Wednesday Addams, I guess. But it's definitely something that I think if you dress it up, you can layer with a lot of lace. So I really like when people are pairing lace with jeans and denim, or if they're putting on a skirt on top or a skirt underneath. And so it's really playing again with like that texture. And so that's what we're seeing where with the softness, and then again like the hard layer like on top. So it's making lace more casual rather than just being a material that's used for weddings and special occasions. It's more of an everyday statement now. So that's definitely one that I think will be around for at least another 2 years. Okay, next we have Khaki Coded. This trend is everything safari. Again, it's primarily millennials and Gen Zs that will be drawn to this trend. According to Pinterest, they think that khaki Bermuda shorts will be in, and adventure-ready streetwear, and tons of pockets. So I guess cargos are back is what they're trying to say. Like cargo shorts is what they're trying to say. I don't know about that, but definitely I could see khaki as a whole being embraced. I've seen quite a few renditions of this recently with more like linen being coming popular. So people are gravitating towards natural fibers, and in turn, a lot of the natural fibers aren't heavily processed, so you get the organic natural color. So that's more of like a beige, or sometimes it's dyed to be brown. So that definitely fits within the khaki aesthetic. And I think also like desert outfits are kind of in that realm of the world. Like I would say that's something that I wore recently. So I definitely agree that that was on par. I wore a linen shirt and cotton pants that were both in like the khaki world. So for me personally, I like this trend, and I don't know if I like the cargo shorts, but I like this trend as a whole. According to Pinterest, brown linen shirts are up 100%, which again, I mean, I have seen this. I have seen brown linen shirts. Do I think it's specific to just this year? I don't know. But also, I think brown as a whole has become a color that's people are bringing back into their closets. A few years ago, you wouldn't have seen brown, so now people are starting to wear it again. So I definitely think that is a trend. I think some people, depending on the shade, it looks great, and others, it kind of is too neutral. So, but again, that just depends on the shade of brown, which there's always one that can work for somebody. But yeah, I think it's a good one, and it's here for at least again another maybe 1 year, 2 years. Don't know how long people will like brown. I think burgundy is a good color neutral. Brown is like neutral, but I don't think brown is like a black. Like I don't think people will keep it forever, if that makes sense. Next, we have Wilderkind, which is, I think, safari, but now you're actually in the park. So you're the animals in the park, you know? So with this trend, people are embracing animal prints once again. Again, like this is another thing that kind of comes and goes, but in this case, it's not like your traditional cow print or zebra print. Instead, we're seeing like does, deer, like different animals having their prints on fabric, or different animal prints being printed on fabric. So with that, for example, Chanel's Métier d'Art show that they had in New York on the subway really featured a lot of these prints. A lot of them were on the skirts, and it was really the only print that was significant. I'd say like there was other prints as well, but in terms of like animal prints, I would say these ones stood out. And we're also seeing it with just regular street style. People are embracing it and really adopting this trend. I think again it's a down up trend, meaning people on the street are wearing it first, and then designers are kind of adopting it and implementing that into their strategy. We're also seeing tabby shoes, so a lot of people are again like loving their tabbies in different forms, not just Margiela. I have a few myself that I really enjoy wearing that falls into this kind of theme. And then also Balmain, they did a show for the fall winter 2025, and they also featured quite a bit of animal prints. So I think it's a nice one. It's just kind of like adopting what we've already been seeing, and it's different from cow prints. It's not anything else that we've seen. So yeah, simple, nice. Now our last trend. This one is geared more towards our boomers and our Gen X's. Now it's really interesting because a lot of the other trends were very focused on Gen Z and millennials. I don't know if that's just because of the demographic that's using Pinterest, or if it just does relate to habitual like the habits that people have. I don't know. But for this trend, it's Throwback Kid. And now what it's implying here is that boomers and Gen X's will be leaning towards their childhood, right? And dressing their kids in vintage clothing that was colorful and fun, not just beige and basic. And they'll also be embracing upcycling, which we have seen has become very popular amongst Gen Zs. And so for this trend to now become popular amongst boomers and boomers and Gen X's, I think this is great as well, because it's just showing that instead of always buying new clothes, people are embracing upcycling and making things new from old pieces. And again, I think that also adds to like the vintage element. Like you could find vintage pieces and remake them into something new, or you can take pieces and put them together and it still has that vintage look. So I think upcycling is always good. It's good for the planet. It's a trend that we should keep in the long run. I know the resale economy has gone up in the last few years. People are thrifting more. People are caring about the environment and their impact. Also, of course, people find it more affordable. So that's definitely a thing there as well. But I'd say that there is definitely a lot of vintage shops that are popping up, and they're the in-between of thrift stores and like new retail stores. So because they're curated, their prices are not as cheap as a traditional thrift store, but they're also not as pricey as if you were to buy it new, and you're still supporting local independent retailers. To wrap it up, those are the 9 trends out of 26 trends that Pinterest has released. These ones focused on fashion, but of course there's a wealth of trends that they've released that they think will be the highlight of 2026. Those range from interior design to food to traveling and a whole bunch more. So if you're interested in checking out more of that, you can click the link in my description. This is not a paid partnership at all. I just think it's fascinating, and I think you might too if you sat through this whole thing. Thank you for watching, for giving me your time. I hope you learned something, but also I'd love to hear what you think and which trends you find are going to dominate 2026, because I think there's quite a lot here to dissect, and I'm sure that trends are always kind of overlapping, and in our modern world where you're in one day and out the next, as Project Runway would say, there's definitely some trends that I don't think will actually be relevant this year, but others that might be, and others that might surprise me. So yeah, let me know what you think. I'm always curious, as I mentioned before. You can leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to respond. Thanks so much. My name is Hallie, and if you like content like this, please consider liking and subscribing, and until next time, bye.